So with the success of the new Resident Evil 2 remake, it's only fitting that Capcom would continue this trend of remakes with the other entries in the Resident Evil universe, with the many RE fans out there voicing their desire to see a Resident Evil 3 remake where we see the Tyrant Nemesis in a whole new light as we control Jill Valentine once again as she makes her final escape in Raccoon City. Anyways, what is up you guys, this is Devuh, and in this video we're going to be covering what we want to see in Resident Evil 3 remake, where we use RE2 remake as a foundation as to what to expect from the upcoming title and speculate when the release date of this game would be. We'll even discuss some potential ideas that they can add for its overall gameplay and how this can affect the overall combat mechanics of Jill vs Nemesis. But before we get started, please don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button for more Resident Evil content in the future. Alright, so starting off, for those of you who've never played Resident Evil 3 before, I would highly suggest that you do, because yes, I know I'll be discussing some spoilers in this video, but actually playing it is a whole completely different feel, because for those of you who've played the game, we all remember the sheer terror that Nemesis was throughout our journey, where he took everything that made Mr. X so terrifying from the original Resident Evil 2 and brought it to a whole new level. Anyways, let's go back in time and see where Resident Evil 3 takes place in the timeline. So RE3 happens a day before and after Resident Evil 2, with the citywide infection of the T virus hitting its peak, infecting a vast majority of the Raccoon City citizens. Which the officers from the RPD had no chance against this type of situation, foregoing the tales of the STARS members from Resident Evil 1, ignoring their warnings of zombies and monsters that they fought in the Spencer estate in the Arklay Mountains, which this was also magnified with the fact that the corrupted Chief Irons refuted their claims and disbanding the STARS unit to further decrease their influence among the public. So with the lack of preparedness and combat skill to fight off these monsters, it was only a matter of time that the whole city would crumble under the T virus strain, which we also get a small explanation from Brad during the game.
Jill? The police aren't trained for this kind of situation. What could they do?
Anyways, as we move on from the starting premise of RE3, let's do a quick rundown on his story, his battle mechanics, and how we can see changes for a Resident Evil 3 remake, as we follow our main protagonist, Jill Valentine, one of the former members of STARS Alpha Team, as she traverses through Raccoon City, trying to find a way to come out alive fighting the many monsters that lurk her surroundings. But during her journey, her unfortunate luck places her right in the middle of the sights of Nemesis, a tyrant who was similar to Mr. X's T-103 model, but had the added benefit of being infected with the NE-alpha parasite, granting him increased intelligence and also being able to use weaponry. He also wears his typical Tyrant trenchcoat limiter, keeping him from over-mutating while at the same time protecting him in some capacity from any damage. Anyways, this Tyrant's overall presence and gameplay is truly outstanding for his time, seeing a monster who can follow you from place to place, who can instant kill our characters while at the same time use a rocket launcher. But my favorite aspect with this Tyrant wasn't the grand encounters that we had with him, but it's actually the times of his absence that really gave me so much tension, because it goes with the saying that sometimes less is more, which in this case holds true in my opinion, because how many times during the game had us Resident Evil fans wonder when he'd show up or give us a jump scare like he did in the RPD station. Even sometimes I really wish we could just encounter him already, so we can stop that constant suspense that he gives when he's off screen. But then again though, that's the last situation you want to be in as well, so in the end it really comes down to just picking your own poison. Anyways, let's go ahead and start to break down what we want to see from Nemesis and Resident Evil 3 as a whole, because I've had many discussions with other Resident Evil fans out there that they want as much of an upgrade to Nemesis, similar as they did with Mr. X from the new Resident Evil 2 remake, which I completely agree with, because personally I would love to see the absolute best version of Nemesis and see him completely unleashed, giving us the same great foundation from the original Resident Evil 3, but adding so much more to that. But the only thing that may hamper that wish is when it comes to the overall balancing of the game, because in RE3, they added the implementation of the dodge mechanic, which allows our characters to side dodge if needed, keeping us from being one-shotted by Nemesis. So in Resident Evil 3 Remake, adding the dodge mechanic would be a great aspect of keeping the balance when fighting Nemesis, because we can only do so much with this maneuver until eventually it doesn't work anymore. And also I'd bet that we'll be playing an over-the-shoulder aspect like we did from RE2 Remake, which is a fine thing, but fighting a Tyrant who is as fast as Nemesis will be very difficult to escape from, especially with the speed that we currently have our characters running at, because I can see a scenario where we have the Tyrant running at full speed towards us and breaking any walls that surround him, which a lot of RE fans out there have speculated that happened in the RE2 Remake's second floor. So maybe the developers can mitigate this by allowing our characters to hide in certain areas in the game, possibly having us hide in lockers, closets, or any other miscellaneous areas that we can use, almost giving the same feel as Alien Isolation isolation, as we have our characters there hiding from the creature as well, where they can implement using more of a stealth type of gameplay. And no, I don't mean like Metal Gear Solid where we have our characters running while inside a box. What I mean is using auditory cues or senses that have our characters traverse through areas, but in a discreet and quiet manner, allowing us to distract Nemesis if he's hunting around the area by throwing glass objects or triggering certain timers and bombs that takes his attention away from us. Maybe getting some inspiration from The Last of Us, where we have Ellie and Joel move around their environment while being surrounded by clickers, using distracting noises to move around to the next area without alerting any of these monsters. Because if Resident Evil 3 Remake added this aspect of gameplay, this will still retain the feel of hopelessness and tension that the true survival horror game should have, because the last thing I want to happen is to add so much grandiose action-based sequences that we saw from Resident Evil 6, with a mixture of so many QTEs, which isn't a bad thing overall, but the grounded and slow-paced gameplay that Resident Evil 2 Remake gave was one of the aspects that made it great. So doing the same for Resident Evil 3 Remake can give us players time to simmer in the experience of fighting a tyrant like Nemesis, letting us feel what true terror is all about. Anyways, another aspect I want to point out as well is the use of weaponry and any other arsenal to that matter, because in Resident Evil 2 Remake, we were given just enough ammo to fight our way out of certain areas, never really giving us players too much, which added to the tension overall, forcing us to play smart and using item management to help us move forward in the game. But in the classic Resident Evil 3, we were given more ammo throughout the game, and also giving us a variety of stronger weapons, leaning more to an action-oriented title, which isn't really a bad thing. I just truly enjoyed the horror aspect that made Resident Evil so popular, and I hope they stay true to that aspect in RE3 Remake. Anyways, the last thing I want to touch on is the story scenarios that maybe they can implement during the game, because in Resident Evil 3, we played mostly as Jill, but there was a small section that allowed us to play as one of Umbrella's mercenaries by the name of Carlos, as he tried to get a vaccine for Jill after she got infected by Nemesis. Anyways, instead of having that small portion in Resident Evil 3 Remake, maybe we can have a separate campaign scenario playing as him, giving us a point of view of the story from the eyes of the Umbrella mercenaries, as we watch them fight the undead, struggling with their suicide mission while at the same time dealing with the other agendas from the other operatives like Nikolai. This would allow us to have much more replay value, almost mimicking Resident Evil 2's approach to the double campaign that they had with Leon and Claire. Anyways, before we end this video, I just want to update on certain speculations or rumors about the release date of Resident Evil 3 Remake. But from some of the news that I've seen and heard, the developers that are making this upcoming RE3 Remake is going to be outsourced to a different gaming studio, and that it would release sometime early 2020, which I really hope that happens, but please take this news with a grain of salt. Anyways, I'll leave a link to this information on the card to the top right section of your screen, which Residents of Evil covered a couple of weeks back. Anyways, what do you guys want to see from Resident Evil 3 Remake? Please let me know in the comment section down below. Also, don't forget to hit that notification bell icon so you guys can be notified when I upload my next video. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching my video, and as always, you guys have a great rest of your day, and this is Hey Devuh, signing out.